Hello, I'm Yvonne from Somerset Libraries and welcome to the second edition of Taunton Library Gardening Club. I've got a couple of things to share with you today. The first is sowing some herb seeds and the second is planting some potatoes. So, herbs. Even if you've only got a balcony or a really small outdoor space, you can still grow herbs in pots and they're great things to grow. They really add an extra dimension to your cooking and they certainly beat the supermarket varieties hands down, both in terms of flavour as well as price, of course. The first herb I'm going to sow is coriander. I've got a pot here and I'm just going to fill it with multi-purpose compost. And I've got the coriander seeds here. And I'm just going to put them in. Now, coriander seeds are very big seeds really, so it's easy to space them out on the compost. And that's important because you need to plant coriander where they're going to grow. They don't like being transplanted into bigger pots. That sort of check to their growth means that they run to seed too quickly and you won't get much chance to harvest from them. So they're being spread out here on the compost. Once they're in and watered, they need to be kept indoors until they germinate, and then they can come outside, of course, if it's warm enough. If you've got enough room, of course, you can plant coriander outside in the garden and that's fine too, but of course it does need to be warm enough to do so. So that's there. Because coriander's an annual and it will go to seed during the summer naturally, no matter how good the growing conditions are, you need to plant seeds in succession so you get a regular supply of herbs during the summer. So plant them every 3 or 4 weeks. I've got some here I planted about 3 weeks ago and they're nearly ready to harvest. I put these in a little pot, but they're probably better in a larger one, I think. The other herb that grows well from seed is basil, and you grow it in just the same way. The thing about basil is you can plant it in trays if you like and transplant to bigger pots because it's quite happy doing that. It's not like coriander. Also, here we have some basil. I planted it a few weeks ago and you see they're quite well spaced though, so I actually won't be transplanting these. They'll grow on where they are. The other one that grows well is parsley, and here's some parsley seedlings and they'll be being transplanted soon, either to bigger pots or possibly in the garden. Coriander and basil like to be kept in full sun, although well watered, but parsley's happy in a bit of shade as well. The other thing to mention about basil is it doesn't like sitting overnight with wet roots, so when you water, probably it's best to water in the morning. The second thing we're going to do today is plant some potatoes. Now these are seed potatoes, specially bought for growing because they're certified disease-free. Now seed potatoes are classified into 4 groups really. There's earlies, second earlies, main crop and salad potatoes, and it varies as to when they're planted. Now these are second earlies and it is a bit late for them to go in, but because of lockdown, I didn't get them very early, so I'm just going to put them in and hope for the best. I'm sure they'll be fine. Now, as you can see, they've got shoots on, and that's because when I got them, I popped them in this egg tray, kept them indoors for a little while until these shoots form. That's a process called chitting, and it really does give them a bit of a head start when they go into the ground. Some people dig trenches and pop the potatoes in and then cover them up. But what I'm going to do is plant them individually with a trowel. Potatoes need to be planted about 6 inches deep. and they'll be about 30 to 40 centimetres apart. So when you've planted all the potatoes, they just need to be watered in. Oh, and I should say that I have added a couple of bucketfuls of garden compost to the bed to make it ready for the potatoes. When the shoots start coming through, everything you read in the magazines and books will say earth up the potatoes. That means draw up the soil each side, so to cover the lower part of the stem. That is to increase the length of the underground stems that bear the potato tubers and to stop them going green if they get too close to the surface. However, if you don't have time or inclination to do that, they will still grow. And oftentimes I haven't, and they still grow and they have a perfectly good crop. So it really is up to you. Of course, I've grown my potatoes in the garden, but if you don't have a garden or you don't have enough room in your garden, you can always grow them in containers, but it has to be quite a big container. Something like I would say about 40 litres. Anything would do really. Something like plastic bag, a large plastic bag. It has to be pretty strong though to hold the compost, and it has to have drainage holes in. So put some compost in the bottom, not much, about that much. Put, I would say probably 2 potatoes in a bag this size and cover them with compost. And then as the shoots emerge, keep putting more compost in. That's the equivalent of earthing up in a container, and it's more important in containers to do that. So even if you've never gardened before, do have a go. Even if you don't do all the books say you should, then things will still turn out okay. For example, I'll just show you this. Last year I should have taken out all these foxglove and aquilegia seedlings, and I never got round to it. But look, now I've got a beautiful display of both. And that's because I didn't do what I should have done. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let us know what you think on our social media platforms and share your photos and gardening stories. We love to hear from you. And please join me again next week. So take care.